As the war in Gaza continues with no end in sight, a new and controversial idea has emerged: the relocation of Palestinian civilians to other countries, including South Sudan. At first glance, this may seem like a humanitarian gesture, a way to help people escape the devastation and find safety. But behind this proposal lie deeper concerns: political, ethical, and long-term strategic. Because this is not just about providing shelter, it is about removing a people from their homeland, and doing so may carry serious consequences not just for Palestinians, but for South Sudan and the region as a whole. Let's take a closer look. The public narrative presents this idea as compassionate, giving civilians in Gaza a chance to escape war and start anew. But beneath this framing is a calculated strategy. Relocating Palestinians would reduce the population in Gaza. It would also weaken the base of political resistance and make it easier for Israel to maintain control over land that has been emptied. What appears to be humanitarian relief may, in fact, be a quiet form of population removal, one that undermines Palestinian claims to their land and future. This would not be a solution to their struggle. It would be a redirection of it from one of national rights to one of survival in exile. But why South Sudan? On paper, South Sudan is a young country with land and potential, but in reality, it faces deep internal challenges. Since gaining independence in 2011, and especially since civil conflict erupted in 2013, South Sudan has struggled with political instability, food insecurity, and violence. Most of the population lives in poverty. Basic services remain limited or unavailable. The country is not in a position to absorb a large foreign population, particularly one that carries the weight of a separate geopolitical conflict. And yet, the incentives for South Sudan to accept these proposals are clear. Hosting Palestinian refugees could strengthen diplomatic ties with the United States, Israel, and other global players. It could open the door to lifting sanctions, easing arms embargoes, or receiving foreign aid and investment. But the risks are equally clear and perhaps more severe. South Sudan's own history is shaped by conflict with the Arab North. Years of civil war, religious persecution, and marginalization have left lasting scars. Introducing a population with Arab heritage into this environment could provoke sensitive reactions. Even if Palestinians arrived as refugees, not representatives of past injustice, tension could arise. Misunderstanding could grow, and new forms of conflict could emerge, especially in areas already struggling with displacement and resource scarcity. For Palestinians, relocation to South Sudan offers no guarantees of safety or rights. The country struggles to provide protection for its own people. Land ownership remains disputed, and governance is inconsistent at best. Without clear legal protections, Palestinians may find themselves stateless once again, this time in a land with no established framework for integration or security. They may face hostility, marginalization, and the risk of becoming trapped in another cycle of displacement. The long-term consequences are significant. For South Sudan, accepting refugees under these conditions could strain its already fragile institutions and inflame internal divisions. For Palestinians, it could mark a turning point not toward safety but toward permanent exile and the possible loss of their right to return. And for those who support the proposal from afar, the benefits are strategic: depopulate Gaza, weaken Palestinian resistance, and expand territorial control under the cover of humanitarian aid. This is not a step toward peace. It is a shifting of the problem from one region to another, from one vulnerable population to another still recovering from its own trauma. If the goal is to support Palestinians and uphold peace in the region, then the answer cannot be relocation. It must be justice, it must be sovereignty, and it must protect the right of all people, including Palestinians, to remain in their land.